side as well. So
Gotcha.
let me go back to this screen. We'll do it that way. There you go. So now we're there. Anyhow, yeah, because it's um, that general chat is there, and then we kind of go from that and go from there.
Okay.
Anyhow, whatever the case may be. So anyhow, hey there, hi there, ho there, out in spray wash land. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes, and Ray is not going to be joining us. He's got a little bit of an issue going on, and Dave decided to come to us from a very, very noisy place. Now, I was telling him I can't hear it, the background at all and all that kind of stuff. So, but tonight we're going to talk a little bit about something Dave has come up with that is an employee training systems, and it's how to help you get your employee training system gathered up for you and for your company. And so kind of laying some guidelines, and then there's a little workbook that comes with it and all that kind of stuff. So Dave, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about you and kind of your vision and what you see and what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish with the workbook.
Gotcha. So for the ones that don't really know me, just as an introduction, I'm Dave Yensan. I've been pressure washing since for like 9 years. We've been doing it, steadily in growth and trying to make things, critiqued as we go and grow, gracefully. So, I was the guy who started out with the little blue pressure washer from, so I'm the guy with the little blue pressure washer from Northern Tool that went around to different houses knocking on doors trying to get Miss Jones to let me wash her house for $100. So I started there, and then as we grew, me and my wife took it on together, and we started building more of the systems to put in place because we asked ourselves, what's our why? What's the reason why we're doing this? It's not to do the same rat race thing over and over and over each year, where we get into this like height of the season, we work our tails off, and then we come down to a time when we're just tired, and you're like, I just want to take a break. You know what I mean? So we wanted to put systems in place that allowed us to work on the business, not necessarily in the business.
And that's the key point.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we've done over the past 9 years, is put automated systems, and some of those struggles and the reason, the pain and suffering that it caused for us to create the systems is more based on, me deploying. Doug, you've gone through that with me, and I've called you and talked to you multiple times while I was overseas, and when things are going wrong and you're not there to be there, and it's not to shun out any owner operators or stuff like that, but having it in place, a system that if you get hurt, if you get sick, somebody
we've been seeing a lot of that where guys have that happening to them.
Yeah. So if we pick up a book, right, and it's funny because Josh always told me, Josh Latimer, his thing was like, if you could hand over a book to an 80-year-old lady and she could run your company, are you fully systemized at that point? And the answer is yes, right? So like, how do you keep filling that binder with systems to get my goal, to get that automated business that allows me to live this life and enjoy it, because we only get one of these,
Well, so, I'll interrupt you there, Dave, because I think, because there are a lot of guys that say, look, I don't need all the systems in place because I don't intend to have all the employees. I mean, I'm just going to have 2 or 3 guys, and I'm just going to, I'm going to have 2 trucks and all that. And I've always disagreed with that, meaning that you should still have the systems in place because things happen, and you may not plan to, not be working within your company, but stuff happens, and sometimes you might need to.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that, especially for the guys that, just want to keep it small. Like if you have helpers, right? Like, or just a lead tech, because you're not going to be there 3 days out of the week, right? So if we can create a system that allows us to create a baseline with our lead techs and our assistant techs. So if you're not there to run that day, the same operational value that you give your clients is still going to be upheld, So
So you've got a workbook that you created, and I think it'd be a good thing. We're going to kind of go through this workbook a little bit. I hope you all can see it out there, because it's the 4 steps to building. And here's the key: is that it's your training system, right? It's not Dave's training system. It's not Doug's training system. It's not Ray's training system. It's not anybody else's. It's going to be a way to help you create kind of your own little training system. I know for us, I used a series of videos, and they were extremely helpful in getting the process started, so that the guy that was new to us really understood what it was going, or what's going on within the company. So this is some of the same stuff I had to look at as I was creating the video series. So I kind of want to go through this, and then Dave, just kind of go through, walk me through it, and I'll go through the pages as you want me to, or we can step off of it. Now and this is something we can put a link out there and people can get, correct?
Yes. So basically what I did is I created this for my class down at the PWMCA event, for everybody that went through my class, and really wanted to hone down on creating some structure to their business training system, right? So for their training system specifically, actually this whole thing right here, this workbook was designed with my vision in mind. My wife is a powerhouse. Like, we work together so much in this stuff, and she put things strategically in there. And because she's the organizer, right? She's the implementer. Right. I'm the visionary when it comes to things. But when we put these certain things in there and we went over how to build this and who it's to, right? Like when we're talking about our target audience, we really wanted to hone in the idea that you were creating your system. You got to think of what your avatar of the perfect employee is, and then build it off of that, right? Mm-hmm. So we did all this, and I want to start this off by saying I have nothing to gain for any of this. I truly believe in building value to other people, and being able to give back to us, a community. So that's why we did this, and I would love to share it with everybody who wants this, and anybody who needs help while we're doing after this podcast. If you want to reach out to me on Messenger, I'll help you walk through, and we'll build this whole system out. So like I said, if you want to go ahead and post it so people can follow along, maybe on their computers. If you're just on your phone, just save it to your phone. It's a workable PDF where you can actually fill in the stuff to create the structure behind your system. So I hope you guys get some value out of this.
And I got to find the link here again. Let me go to my messages, and I'm going to post the link so y'all can get it on your own.
I'll let you do that. And you want me to talk about this first page?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So, when we're looking at what our employees, and this is the problem that we had, right? It's finding the proper employees to put on the truck with us, right? It's easy to take that guy as an assistant tech and just throw him on the truck and be like, tape that doorbell, rinse that down. Hey, you didn't wash that plant down good enough. Let's go, right? But you're not always going to be there, right? So creating that structural foundation and knowing what your target audience when you want to create the system and who you're speaking to. So that's basically what this page talks about, and why you're building this system, right? And why it helps. So
just let me know when you want me to scroll it.
Yeah. Yep. So you can go ahead and move on from that. It's kind of pretty much self-explanatory when it comes to, your target audience and how these things help you. So just kind of going over the framework, right? So when we're looking at the contents, we're going to talk about how to build a framework in a system. Okay. I know that sounds very simple, and it's kind of a monotonous, geeky task when you're looking at it, but that's one of the biggest things is how do you create the system? You got to create a framework first behind it. And the next step is we're going to build a template. The nice part about this is I made it right here for you. So you got the template to be able to build your system.
As we scroll down, y'all are going to see all the things that he's got on there.
Yeah.
And then that link to that Google Drive, you can download this yourself, and then that way you have it and you can fill it out. Either you can come back and watch this episode again and fill it out with what Dave's saying, or you can kind of do it on your own. And I think it's a good guide. So anyhow, keep going, Dave.
Yeah. So that step 2, we're going to talk about resourcing your content. And I'll get on that. Guys, this is way simpler than you think it is, right? So when we're talking about resourcing our content, where are you going to get the videos from? Are you going to make them, or are you going to use that gold mine of a resource called YouTube? Because there's a lot of guys out there when you're typing stuff in, and I'll get to that a little later. But when guys are typing that stuff in, like how to wash a house, it's simple. It's right there. It may not be the exact way you do it, but it's a starting point, a baseline that you can create some structural knowledge to what you're needing them to know. So, and then what we're going to do is do some check on learning. We're going to build that out in between our structure of our framework, right? So what's really important to people, what's important to us as owners that we want our employees to retain.
Because it's not just about what we want, it's about what you want within your own company.
Yeah. So the idea that, what would you think the biggest topic in your business do you think we actually need a check on learning for? Safety. Friggin' safety. We want guys to know that. So when OSHA shows up, we know that they've been trained on it. They know the knowledge. We can say, hey, we did tests with them to say they've done their ladder safety training, right? And then we're going to build quality control measures. We're gonna figure out, and once the training's done, our 0 to hero concept is what Sammy and I like to call it. Whether that's a certain amount of period of training after the fact, we need performance reviews on these individuals, right? Because what's one thing we always do as business owners? We're like, hey, this guy's getting it and he's screwing up right there. Okay, so hey, bud, you need to fix that. And you know what? He's not fully in our values, or maybe not the fully trained guy we want, but we'll work with it. And then we just keep that guy in the truck and he keeps going. And what happens is we don't cut the cancer from our company early on, right? So what does performance reviews do for us? It allows us to keep a written document to say, hey, this problem keeps happening and you haven't fixed it. So we'll get more into that. And then looking at the conclusion would be more on the idea of you implementing the system in your business. So let's go ahead and move to framework.
Which is probably the hardest part, we think, but it's really not.
It's not. It's, it's funny because I was listening to a podcast early on, and it was earlier today, and it was like, we're in an era where we're all about information we receive, but we don't execute on, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it sounds great in our ears about us getting it done and doing it. But actually executing on the task is the hardest part for us.
It is the biggest problem, I'm going to say, I see at every single convention. Every single convention, you see people sitting there writing it down. Oh, man, this is good stuff. Oh, man, this is good stuff. Good stuff. You talk to them a week later. Hey, did you implement any of that? No, I haven't had time. No. And they don't get that all that time that they don't have is right there ready and waiting for them if they implement these things. They take the time. It ends up so they spend 5 hours doing it. Very quickly, it gives them back 10 hours. It's a net positive result.
Yep. And Doug, I'm a product of that through and through. There's so many notes from back in the day when I was like in the UAMCC, and I would take a ton of notes. And I've pulled open binders from then, and even now, me being in the Conquer program, right? You're drinking through a fire hose of great material that you're hearing from these people, and you get home and I open up the book, 3 months later, and I'm like, dang, if I would have implemented this sooner, we'd be a lot farther in this game. So
exactly.
But let's talk about framework, and because I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time tonight. When we look at Pat, I appreciate that, brother.
Yeah.
So when we look at what the goal of our training system is, we want to put that in there, right? We want to have some forethought of what this training system is going to achieve. Then we want to look at what length we want it for. So Sammy and I have looked at our training system, and we decided that 10 days was perfect. Okay. That's 5 days of training that's in class and out in the field training, structured and right there visually watching the person. And then 5 days on the end with your operations manager or training lead, that's going to take them out and do that OJT, that on the job training, right? So that's the concept for our length. And we call that the 0 to hero concept. And then in this little idea section, you're just going to put in there kind of the ideas that kind of spark your inspiration and things that you want to put specifically in there for your training system that may fit you a little bit better, right? Because as we do this, we all have ideas. That's why we're entrepreneurs. That's what we think about. You know, this is a box for you to be creative and think about the things that really mean the world to you, right? And then moving on, we got our system. This is the big one, guys. It has to be the vehicle in which you put your system in. Okay. So when we're talking about, you know, where we use our structure, that's specifically like Talent LMS. That's a phenomenal free 99 program. If you want to use it, you're more than welcome. That's what we use. I love it because it allows us to put the videos in there. And then right after the video, it makes them take a test. And if they don't score an 80 or above, it makes them retest, right? They have to go back through the content. Yep. But that's not everybody's way. We started out on a Google spreadsheet, like a Google Doc, right? For Excel or whatever it was. It had the name of the video, like house washing, right? So how to house wash 101. And then it was a link to some guy's video on YouTube. And it gave the generalized structure of how we're going to spray it on and spray it off, essentially, right? Like getting the meat and beans of what you do out. So
and you get to set that. That's actually a good point too, where you take your pick of videos that you like, and you could even pull sections of videos out and say, I like this part of this video. And I mean, if you want to spend the time to do that or to have the whole thing, you can watch it, you can do what you want. And you know, that way you know what they're watching and what they're seeing. And it's not, I think there's also power in it not being from you every single time.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things we put in there was the Google form, right? So this is actually Corey Edmonds. I don't know if any of you have seen him. He's a powerhouse in this industry. He's doing really well for himself. Corey put together a Google form and created his whole training system through there. It was phenomenal. It was eye-opening, right? Because there's many ways to skin a cat. And I feel like this one right here, like he hit it out the park. If you get a chance, go on YouTube, look up Corey. He has a phenomenal video on his training system of, I think it was wood restoration, how he put that together. But that concept stays the same all the way across. So, yeah, so that's what we got for the idea of our framework. Is there any kind of questions or anything as we're moving along? Anything there?
Nothing that I'm seeing as of just yet. I think a lot of people, normally we get a lot of good engagement and not too many people saying, so I have a feeling there's notes being taken.
Well, I hope.
Normally there's a lot going on the sidelines.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So looking at this part, right, we're making our template. Well, down below this piece of the step one, I've given you the template, right? So we're going to walk through that process. Right here is our ideas of training topics. This is where you're going to get your head kind of around the idea of what you want the structure and processes, how to use your CRM, how to do the services you do, right? So we got right up here at the top our culture, right? In any company, when you're creating a system, you want to have something that creates your insight, your vision for what the company culture is, what you truly believe in, right? So we want to give that company story about how we came up from absolutely nothing to where we are today, right? We want those people to understand where we're going. You know, I can't read that one.
It says just letting it all sink in, and then
gotcha. So,
like I said, normally there's a lot of comments going on the side, and there's not, which means that, I mean, they're taking it in. They're probably
yeah.
So
okay, well, I'll try not to get my ADD off track and squirrel a bunch of times, and I do apologize, guys. That's my my one thing. I might look over here because, you know, squirrel. You know, so. Yeah. But big things, you know, that are coming in. You want your mission statement. What do you guys stand for? What is that, you know? And then where's the vision of your company going? We want to be able to to convey that to the potential person that's going to be working for you. We want them to know what it's about. You want to create that baseline of understanding of what that is, right? And then looking at core values. If you guys seen, JC just got on, online, and he posted his whole thing of core values that line up with light. Phenomenal. Like, you got to have something that represents you as the business, right? And I'm talking specifically as you, the owner, when you're looking at these core values, because if it doesn't fit you, your team's not going to fit it either, right? Because you're going to hire you want people to be around those core values.
And you want them to know what those core values are, to know whether or not they fit, because let's face the fact, sometimes people might look at something and say, I'm not working for that guy. I'm not. Yeah. Okay, great. I'm glad you're not coming to work for us. Or they're going to say just the opposite. Man, that's who I want to work for. And in today's day and age, let's face it, it is harder to find. And I do believe this. I do believe that it's harder to find better employees nowadays than it used to be. And I think that the mindset has definitely changed. So having those values in place, and even the mission statement and all that, the vision of where you plan to go with the company, helps them see whether or not they even want to come there, or if there's a future for them.
Yeah. Because simple things like, what uniforms? You see guys running around in flip-flops and sandals, and some of you may say, Dave, you're full of crap. Like, I don't need that. Like, we're gonna wear whatever we want. I did that one time, right? So we have a structure of our blue shirts, right? Unless you get one of these nice ones after a year of working for us, because you got to earn your shirt, right? Like, the guys that walk around, they're pretty prideful about having, their dye sub shirts, right? Mm-hmm. So I love that pride that they take in that. But to understand how your uniform is going to be worn every single day, right? We wear khaki tactical cargo pants, right? They're very lightweight, but they're poly, so they don't bleach. We love them, right? Because we've had lines blow up right next to your leg and slap you pretty dang hard, right? And we don't want that to be on bare skin, right? And then looking at, I did it one time. I was like, I think we can get done with this whole wearing shorts in the middle of summer. Like, we're going to wear shorts. We're going to make this happen. So I did it for one day, and we went out on a wood staining job. I went to help, the guys out, and the back of my legs were sunburned so bad because I was holding the pressure and rinsing down the fence, as I go, just because you kind of lean into it a little bit, it's not too much pressure, but it was enough to kick my legs out and get them sunburned on the back of my calves. And then I had a line blow up that day. It was like a sign from God. Just keep your structure and what you have in your system. It's like
amazing how that happens sometimes.
Yeah. Karma bit me right in the leg. So
I'm going to stop you there for just one quick second. And this is Gene O'Neill. It's coming in, a Facebook user. It says, download this, great information, well laid out. Even if you already have a training system and a training process, it's great stuff. And so just remember the link that's already in there that we already sent in there. You can download this form and then make the changes that you want and make it fit your company and your process and your culture, and just change the verbiage in there, do whatever you need to do, and Dave is offered to help in however he can. Back at it.
And Gene, you're the man. Love you, brother. So looking at the different things, right, when we're talking, and I don't want to get too much into this, I just want to be able to spark some thought process, maybe for you to put up in the top end of that one that I don't even have here, right? Like, if you can think about it, put it up there. And then looking at the processes, let's get into this. I'm going to go over this really simple, right? How your guys are going to clock in the morning, right? We use Square. I need them to know that there's a process and how to do this, because I don't want that question, right? And all of these things that are on this list, we literally built out because we would get a phone call or a question. So if you get a phone call, what I want you to do is I want you to write down the question that your employee asks, right? And then create a system behind that. Or a training process, right? Because we would get tons of phone calls and hey boss, I don't know how to do this. And I go, I'm pretty sure I taught you how to do that. And they're like, no, no, no. And I didn't have a training system at the time. So I'd have to re-answer that question multiple
over and
times.
over again.
And I'd always have to catch myself because you're doing a million different things at once. You don't remember what you did teach and what you didn't teach. And there's no telling that the process.
Or you taught it to Dave, but you actually taught it to Rick, you know.
Yeah. Rick's the one who actually knew. So,
yeah.
But remember your processes that you're building out. Please use this, right? So, understanding like your before and after photos, guys. How many times have we gotten to a situation where you tell your guys, hey, make sure you take 4 photos around the house and create a spot around the house that you're going to take that same exact photo after you're done, right? How about the fact that you have, the house taped up? My guys have to physically tape up the keyholes. They have to tape up all the Ring doorbells, cameras, and then they do their pictures just to show that the before pictures, everything is covered up, right? And then the afters, they're taking all that tape and stuff down and then taking their pictures, because we get those calls where they're like, hey, they left blue tape on my house. So now we know the admin can check and see those pictures. So we built that process out in there to train them properly in how to do these certain tasks. So, job duties for their position. Do you guys have a structure that says, hey, you're an assistant tech, you're going to go up, you're going to start taping out outlets, you're going to move around the house and make sure that everything's moved properly, all hoses are pulled out, the water line's hooked up, water's run into the truck, everything's set out so that after the lead tech gets done talking to Miss Jones and doing his pre-inspection walk around with her, and that she's good to go, that you guys can just start, right? So having those processes and written out specifically for those things, really important, right? I don't want to get too.
That's another one of those areas where a lot of guys don't have an actual job duties. What each person does within the company, that's not written out. Nobody really knows, kind of a thing.
And just another one to kind of spark on the processes, oxidation tests, guys. I don't know about you, but in the South, we have a ton of oxidation all over the houses.
Oh, yeah.
So our process is they have to do a swipe test in an inconspicuous spot that we know that, it's a heavy spot on the north side of the house, right? Let's say, and they have to take a picture of their finger right there next to the spot. So now that we know they put that in the CRM, we know they talked to Miss Jones and told her, because they're doing it as they speak to her in the process. So now we know that we've explained that oxidation is a thing in our house, and that we're going to do our best to mitigate any type of disruption to that oxidation layer. And then we're going to talk to her about potentially taking care of that oxidation, right? And it all lays out in that process. But if you don't train them, they don't know. And then Zorro went crazy in the side of the house because you didn't train the guy properly, right? Yeah. We've all been there. I've had it happen. I've had to do a whole oxidation renew on a house because of it. But I learned the hard way. So look at safety, right? When you're building out your safety training guide, make sure you're putting stuff in there for the specific stuff you do, right? We want to talk about our chemical 3M masks, right? Our ladder safeties, chemical handling, right? How to read our SDS sheets. That's a huge one. Guys just get that yellow binder in the truck and they're like, yeah, it's over there. But how do you truly read that?
What is it and what's its purpose?
Yeah. So just to understand on the safety data sheet and its purpose and how it works, but proper PPE, right? I've gone out there and guys have, full-on face shields and everything else on, and it's not even a windy day, and I'm like, hey man, you could, if it's coming back a little bit, throw on some goggles, if that's, you want to keep it off your face, whatever, just trying to help you here, because that face mask gets really hot and steamy. 110
and what do you do? You should even have something in there like if guys wear contacts, and what if they get stuff in their eyes and they're wearing contacts? What should they do at that point? You can have all of those in your systems training to understand, if that's what you want for your company.
Yeah. So the other part is just the CRM process, exactly, of how to utilize how to use your system so you don't get calls. That's our whole objective here, right? And then our services, I put that small at the bottom. We don't necessarily I find that doing the thing is the easy part. It's following the structure of everything else in your company and how you want things done, where you want it put back. Don't touch my 10 millimeter. If you do, put it back in my workbench, area, stuff like that, So the services is the easy part. It's everything that we know. It's in our head. We can recite it forward and backwards and do it in our sleep. So when I'm saying you're creating these systems or these videos, you want to walk through the process exactly how you want it set up. So if that's washing a house, the minute you get out the truck to completion of the job, right? And that's talking to the client, and the different steps, the upselling value that you have in there, right? Have the whole process laid out for them in a video so that they understand how to do it.
And I think videos are probably the better way to go than to have them sit down trying to read a bunch of stuff. I think most people they're going to process the video a little bit better. They're going to probably listen a little bit more. I don't know about you, but if I got to sit down and read something, I get sidetracked a lot of times. And my mind, even though I'm actually reading it, my mind is not listening to what I'm reading. It's especially as an entrepreneur. I don't know if it happens to people that aren't the entrepreneurs, but my mind is actually thinking about something else, even though I'm reading it. And I can read something 5 and 6 times, and I don't necessarily retain it because I'm concentrated. I'm thinking about other things, where videos, I don't seem to do that as much.
Yeah. So in our system, we actually do videos, and then we have we have a picture, right? Like of whatever it is representing the thing. And then we have a small blurb just straight to the point of like reading about Japanese maples, right? Identification of the plant. What are the specific things you're looking for in that plant? What it looks like. Boom, you're done. Right? Like we want little things with verb, like just a little paragraph in there of what it is, straight to the point, and then go straight to another video. You got to break up that monotony of videos too.
Definitely.
So, but yeah, so here it's just to talk about the categories and different things that you're putting in there. Wes. So. Yeah, so just here, you're going to jot down those different things in your culture and then apply to your business, the process, the safety, the CRMs. These are the little things, just kind of, I wanted to go over the big idea topics.
Yeah, these are everything that he went through as we got started here. And these are where he would fill all of those things in. And again, this is something you can download. You can keep it for yourself, and you can fill in all of your own. What are your thoughts on your culture, your process, your safety, your CRM, your services, and anything else? You can take these and create something, add on or take away from whatever you want.
Yeah, so these are fillable PDFs, right? So you can do it right there on your phone. I've done it. It works really well. This is right here. This is that template, right? So we talked about the meat and beans that's going to be inside our system. Now we've talked about our lengths, right? Now we got to put all this stuff together. Right. So in here, you're going to put the days, how many days you said your length of system would be. So like ours, I'll give you a normal day. So on day 1, we're going to go over our normal welcome videos. We're going to go over our culture. We're going to talk about, our uniform, our policies, our drug policies, and then we're going to jump into one topic. And this is all before lunch. Okay. So we're going to jump into that one topic. Maybe let's talk about driveway cleaning, right? So in the driveway cleaning, once everything is done up to there, right, you got maybe 2.5 hours before lunch. We're going to go over and show them the process by video of how it goes, right? And then we're going to have them take a test on that. So understanding what the 2502s and how many of them are underneath that surface cleaner, right? How to properly use that in the process, understanding the circle methods, understanding, post-treatment, pre-treatment, identifying maybe some stainage on the ground so that you can let your client know, stuff like that. And then we're going to go to lunch. And then in the afternoon, the operations manager is going to take them out for their practicals. So now they're going to put those things in place and actually utilize what they learned that day in the morning. So let them have lunch. Boom. We're going to go out and we're going to actually check them off that they retain that information on that day. Then the next day, same thing. We're going to go through house washing, start to finish, right? And then In the afternoon, we're going to take them out and wash that house and teach them specifically on that one task we want them to know. And each day is laid out like that. So whatever it works for you and how you would create your structure of days, put that stuff in there. And then looking at step 2, let's talk about resourcing the content. So the big thing here is definitely utilize YouTube. That's what we did. We created a little spreadsheet, like I said. We put the videos in there from YouTube on how to wash a house. And it was some guy out in California washing a house, right? And then that gave them kind of the structure, and we built off of that to creating our own, right? But don't go out there and try and reinvent the wheel and think you're going to do something crazy on your own and creating this video and getting so technical that you don't even do the system, right? Like it'll just make you want to not do it anymore. I know, because my biggest thing is this right here. Looking at this camera right now used to be my absolute
fear,
kryptonite. I just could not do it. You couldn't get me on camera to save anything. I'd sit there, and I have a welcome video from our training system that I just finished probably 4 months ago. And just to get to that point, it took me 58 takes to get that video done and looking at that camera and saying what I want to say. Get what you need out, get the meat and beans in there. If you mess up, just keep rolling with it. It's your content and what you believe your training system should have. So don't worry if you're stuttering or messing up on things. Just do it. Execute.
Because it always happens no matter what you do.
Oh, yeah.
Todd is asking, you ever create your own videos to show employees, Dave?
I do. So even when we run into things now, so we have a whole structure of our training system on how to do the things, how to maintain the things, right? Simple things like how to start the engine properly on a GX690, right? Like, how do you physically do that? Because I'd walk up, we'd be on a apartment complex, and I'd have 2 trucks running, and a guy would just shut off the system all at once, like just hard shut off. Like that machine's been running for 8 hours, full blast. Like that's like running down the track for 8 hours, right? Like run that throttle down, let it calm down for a minute. Not that that's a big deal, but it's a pet peeve in my head, right? So creating a little video on site of right there when I seen it, I went back and I was like, all right, let's start this back up. And then we're going to talk about throttling. And I had him stand right there. He didn't see it, but he wasn't in the video, but we talked about utilizing that. So it's just me videoing and looking at my hand doing the things and speaking about how we're going to turn on and off the engine. So yeah.
I don't think that's a Canes logo though behind you. They're saying love the Canes logo, but that's not Canes.
Well, what is it? Because it looks like a Canes logo to me.
Okay, but I think, well, for me, I'm thinking of a different Canes though. Maybe I'm thinking of Canes.
Candy canes?
No, and I can't see it on there, but I'm thinking of Canes is a chicken place here.
No boy.
South, yeah, and they
Carolina
only serve chicken tenders. That's it. They don't serve anything else. They don't serve wings. They don't serve 100% strictly chicken tenders. That's it. I mean, they do coleslaw and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when he said Canes, I'm like, that's not Canes, but it's a different type of Canes. My bad. Squirrel. Back to the topic.
See, I do. I knew I wasn't the only one. So looking at these things, right? Like I said, don't edit out every mistake. If you pause and stop, just cut that piece out if you need to. That's what we do as well, Dave. Same exact pet peeve that I have about high pressure throttle. My guys think I'm crazy and wanting them to do that. You're not crazy, dude. I'm right there with you. It's just like one of those little cringes for me to watch guys do that stuff. So,
I think some of it, and you're a little bit younger, Dave, but for me, it as an older guy, and look, hey, while we're talking about it, and this will be kind of why. So for us older guys, and you start thinking about some of the older vehicles that we used to own and all that, there were things that you kind of needed to do, right? And for me, I tell my wife and kids, you guys, you don't just turn the car off when you got the air conditioner running. You turn all those systems off. And then when you get in the car, you don't just start it and drive. You start it, let it warm up a little bit, and then you drive. And it's a pet peeve. But a lot of that does come from the older eras. And since we're talking about that, I'm going to do this and see if y'all can see it.
Oh, Betsy, look at her.
I just bought that truck yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna have some fun with that thing. Not to get off topic and off all that, but that is what a true transvestite is. And what I mean by that is she's pretty, but she's also got some balls. So there you go. Anyway,
I hear you.
All right, we're off topic. Go for it.
We'll finish up this little paragraph real quick. This is one of the biggest points I want you to understand. When you're recording everyday tasks, spend time writing out what you're going to talk, even if it's little cliff notes, right? Because even for me now, like when I jump into a video or even explaining this, right? I don't have any cliff notes. It's probably scatterbrained like crazy. But create those cliff notes and exactly how your system or whatever you're trying to speak about, the key things that you want to really drill down on, right? You want them to know, because it's easy to jump off task and run to different things. But yeah, let's go on to the next page. Pressure washer has a throttle.
Yeah.
What's that dang there thing? I'm not going to say you're from Florida. I'm just kidding.
All right, is that the page?
I hear you. Yeah, so looking at this, right, so now we're in our second portion of, wait, is this the second or third? I apologize. What's it say up at the top?
I'm sorry. Check on learning. Step 3.
Step 3, right? So all this is a fancy word for test, right? What I found is that saying, hey, you're about to be tested on this. You better know what you need to know, right? Like being that person and creating that atmosphere makes people very nervous. But hey, Bo, you're gonna have a little few check on learnings here and there, just to make sure that you know what you're talking about. You good with that? Good. So you create the atmosphere to understand that you're not creating, we grew up on this idea that it's not even an idea. It's been forced into our heads that tests are just something to freak out about. I still freak out about when I say the word test, right? But check on learning sounds so much easier in the process, right? So it's just testing the guys on the key things of what the questions you want to ask them, right? And these are simple things, right? Multiple choice, short answer, mix it up in that piece, because you're going to get guys that go in there and just hit BBC, A, B, C, A, and go crazy with it. Like, know that you got to throw some extra little things in there to make sure these guys know what they're talking about. Not to say that's going to happen to you. I hope it doesn't, because then you got the wrong guy anyways. But, when to test. This is the part that I was talking about in the beginning. The most important piece of anything that we do, right, and at least for my company, is the belief that safety is number one. It's paramount. It's what we need to focus on when I'm sending trucks out on a daily basis, because I don't know what I would do. And there's guys in this group that have lost a guy. And it's due to unsafe action.
Ray lost a guy.
And what led up to that, I can't speak for, and I don't know. But I know from my standpoint, in my opinion, in my company, I need to make sure these guys are loaded with every bit of the ability to be safe and have the knowledge that I'm going to give them to at least learn the things to be safe, right? They don't know what they don't know. So going into step 3 at the bottom here, we're talking about our testing topics. This is that area I want you to put the different things. Go down.
Oh, sorry.
So right here. So testing topics, we want to talk about the different things. These are things that you're important to you, right? Is it that things in how proper shutdown of the machines on the back of the truck are, right? Is it safety? Is it company culture? Do you want them to know your vision? Put that stuff into here, the things that you want to test on. And then there's a little note section for you to be able to maybe, brainstorm some different ways in those topics to utilize that one. You take it easy, Wes. So step 4, let's talk about our company, our continued education. I hope that all of us truly believe that whether we're one guy or 2 guys or 3 guys, right? That we have an idea that we're going to bring some value to other people when it comes to the people that work for us, right? And even if it's you, the continued education, not necessarily you, maybe your assistant tech that you have, but the idea that you have continuing education set in line, right? Performance reviews, the things that we do on a daily basis that we know guys are doing that are wrong and we're not writing up. That's the hardest part that I think as business owners, some of us stray away from. Maybe we're not that A-type dominant personality where we kind of let people walk on us and do certain things.
Well, it's
But
a
if you
natural
go,
thing that we want to be liked anyhow, and we don't
yeah,
do things that people don't like. And, it's hard to, once you become that friend of the employee, it's harder to maintain
we don't want
that.
to upset them, right?
Yeah,
We don't want to
exactly.
call them out for their stuff they've done.
That's why you have to maintain. You can maintain both lines. I'm telling you, it is 100% possible.
Yeah, yeah. So I think honestly, when you're really looking at it, a performance view, you want to set out this section in looking at that 1 to 2 week range, right? Right after they've gotten the knowledge. That's a paramount time when you've trained them. Now they're out on the job site with that other lead tech, or maybe it's a lead tech that an operations manager is following behind. Is he writing the reviews on this guy? Is he training him? Is he mentoring him into the proper way and things that you do, right? So if you're not taking these things down in that area, this is where you catch the bad things right off the bat that we just kind of just let go, right? Like as business owners, we're like, oh, they'll get it later. They're gonna figure this out. And the truth is, they end up not. And 9 times out of 10, I've had a bunch of employees. I've had high turnover rates in what I've done. If we don't keep people accountable for their actions, then what are we doing, right? We're spinning our wheels. We're hiring the same guy over and over and over and having a high turnover rate. So create your system with that 1, 3, 6, and 12-month performance reviews and asking him exactly, what can we maybe it's simple things like how you're doing in your performance. How about my performance as a leader, right? Mm-hmm. What are the things that I can improve to be better to this company, right? Because I'll tell you, there's a ton of things on an exit review. If you put that in place, that when a guy's really pissed off, he's going to tell you exactly why he's pissed off and what things you can fix in your company. Mm-hmm. So
it's funny. We just talked about exit reviews within the last couple of weeks, and I think they're probably another one of those things that's just super overlooked. Even if the guy hates you, I mean, the odds are he's going to share with you stuff that, you may or may not want to hear. And you do have to kind of look at it in a realistic fashion to say, oh, he's just blowing off steam here. But, or is he just one of those kinds of people? But exit reviews to me are something that I didn't have in place. If I had the company now, I would implement every exit. I would try to get a review or an interview over that exit.
And it's valuable information, right?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
What can we fix in this company? I've done it plenty of times where I'd sit somebody down and they tell me something. I'd sit back in the chair and be like, ain't no damn way. There ain't no way you're going to tell me right now that's a thing. Like in my head, I didn't say that to them because that would be really rude and unprofessional of us, right? But in my head, I was like, this dude, right? Like has the nerve to say this, but it was all true. Mm-hmm. It's all true. It was maybe one way that I was treating a guy,
we may
favored him more because maybe he works harder. Maybe he does these things, but I didn't take the time to maybe go over to this guy and need and work him, right? And make him the all-star like the other one, right? And that you're not instilling that firm, fair, and consistency across the board within your team.
I think another thing for us is that, I mean, and I know I get a lot of guys that'll say, well, for me, I was thrown to the wolves. I just had to figure it out. And that's what they're going to do. They're just going to have to figure it out. And if that's the way you want to run your company, great. But I don't think that's a successful way. And not saying that you can't be successful doing that, because you can. But I think you'll be more successful and faster by implementing systems like this, whether you're going to do 1 employee or 100 employees. And even just for yourself, a lot of these things you can implement, even if it's just you and there is nobody else, because even a performance review, right? A performance review on yourself can be a really reflective thing. If you've set down your goals, if you follow, this sheet, and you outline what are the goals for your company, what do you want as your company culture, what is your all these things. Even if you're a single owner operator, you go back 6 months and you say, am I doing these things? These are the visions that I had. Am I doing that?
And I'll be that honest with you, Doug. If we went back 8 years, right, and you would have told me I need these business systems in place, I'd have told you to go kick rocks and fly a kite, right? Because I was on cloud 9. I was making, a few bucks in my pocket. As Guy Blackman in my area, he always used to say, guys doing it for beer and cigarette money. That was me, right? And in the beginning, I knew I wanted something with this, but I didn't know the systems, right? So I put these things in play later on when it was already painful and it hurt. So if I can give anybody some encouragement on the idea of what we do and how we do it, you're not too busy for this, right? Yeah. Like you're not, don't think in a moment's, definitely take time off for yourself, but block out some time to build on your business instead of working in your business, right?
And you also have to remember, sometimes you're not the best person for it. If you have somebody in your company that's better at doing this than you are, utilize them in every aspect of it.
Yeah. So like Todd's saying right there, disciplinary issues, right? So we have a whole structure, and I'm a nerd when it comes to these systems now. I wasn't, but now I absolutely love them, and I love to puzzle them out. And I'll be honest with you, my wife has been the creator of all these things. It's phenomenal what she's put into place. What's up? I can't see who you are.
Yeah.
But talking about that disciplinary issues, right? So I don't want to jump too much off target on that one, but the structure of your systems, when you're saying that you have some type of disciplinary format of exactly what it falls in line to, and you say, hey man, hey, look, I know your truck's dirty. You didn't put it back together. And you also didn't wash your truck, right? This is, and it falls under the verbal warning piece. I want you to know that this is, being put in your file. It's just our company policy, man. Take that monkey off your shoulder, right? It's not you doing it. It's the company, essentially. We're just following the rules when it comes to it.
I'm not sure who that is. Brandon somebody. Who knows who that is, right?
Yeah. So I don't know which Brandon that is. That might be, who is that?
I'm not sure.
So taking that monkey off your back and that disciplinary issue and creating that structure on what happens when you're late, right? I don't know how many times I had guys walking through the door, 5-10 minutes late. And because they were my boys, I never said anything. But what happened? Those guys literally got to the point where they walked off a job site. And it's about to rain. We got to the point where it was about to rain. Not that it's raining, not that we have thunderstorms. We were about to rain. That's where not having the structure and saying hey, this system needs it. We're not leaving until we see lightning, right? Rain helps us rinse. That's our motto. There we go. The hunk. Brandon Vaughn.
That's what I thought it was going to be, but when you said you weren't sure, then I was like, well, maybe it's not. So.
I didn't want to say Brandon Vaughn and be wrong in that piece. Yeah. So
well, I figured you would know because he's saying Samantha is a beast, and so I thought, well, you would know if that's something Brandon would say to you or not. So
Hey, look, the last thing I'd ever want to do is be considered, Dave somebody else, so I don't want to, disrespect anybody by just throwing a random name out there, but I had an idea that it was kind of him. I just wanted to make sure before we said anything. Yep. But to come all back to what we originally had, right? And we're talking about the conclusion of this. Everything that you put inside this block and creating the framework of your system and your training that's going to help you this year, right? To get out there and truly take a breath in the middle of a busy season, right? And be able to think on things. Your team will handle exactly what you need them to handle, but you have to train them the right way. And this is the start, right? Build your framework, put these things in a vehicle, and then implement the system. And that's all the conclusion comes down to.
Just backing up a little bit too, is that even if you intend to be that owner operator and one or two employees, I mean, stuff goes wrong, right? We just had Chris Coonsey, who had a widowmaker heart attack at 35 years old, right? And before that, he broke his ankle, and Mitchell Moore, another one, broke his ankle. Things happen. We've had guys fall off the roof. We've had, lots of stuff that happens. Let's say, you have a parent or a sibling that passes away, and you've got to go and,
you got to go to another state,
deal with that. Yeah. I mean, how does your company continue to run, even though you've only got two guys and you feel like they kind of know how to run the company? No, do they? And are there systems in place to make sure that, if something does happen, that can continue on? That's the important side.
Yeah. And to sit here and look at this little booklet and say, that's not for me. I get it. And I truly understand if that's how you feel and you want to be, just that guy that goes out, makes just enough for your family and you're good. Hey, more power to you. I'm not saying you're wrong in any way. Like I said, there's a million ways to skin this cat. Just for, the people that have those simple assistant texts to you, right? Those guys need to know how to do the job. They need to know their job duties. They need a baseline structure of exactly what you want them to know so that everyone is trained consistently across the board. So, and then that just goes over the conclusion of the different step processes and things you want to make sure that are in there. So if you want to contact me, I'm on Facebook. I'm willing to help people. I did it at the PWMCA. We sat down 8:30 at night, building out somebody's actual structure and pulling videos and doing different things and trying to bring as much value as I could to a bunch of people as I possibly could. So I was able to meet Dave last week. Definitely one of the guys that impressed me the most. Good stuff tonight. Hey, brother, I'm here. This is what I love doing, is to be able to help people. So if I can help you, please just let me know. I find a lot of value in being able to bring as much as I can to the table, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're in my area. It doesn't matter if you're, across the country. You still have to feed your family.
Let me do this. I'm gonna call you out, Dave, because I'm gonna call you a liar right here to your face.
Let's go.
You do not help people in your own market, do you?
Oh, why not?
Exactly. So that's the exact same thing I used to get. There's no way you help people in your own market. Yes, I do. And guys, people don't believe that sometimes. It's like, why wouldn't you? Right?
At the end of the day,
if it brings everybody up, everybody wins.
So it's the thought of the abundance thought process over the scarcity thought process. Jeremy Brook threw this out there in one of the groups last week. Phenomenal gold nugget. If you're looking at every single situation in your area is that you can wash all the houses and he's my competition, you're dead wrong, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, I need to get my ass out of bed. I apologize for cursing, right? But I need to get my tail out of the bed and get everything done with self-discipline. I'm my own competition when it comes to things, 100%. Not that guy. I wouldn't even put myself on the same playing ground with him, because he's doing what he needs to do. I'm doing what I need to do. And my lack of execution sometimes is my demise. So
we have this discussion all the time where, you talk and you see it in all the forums, right? The $99 guy, the $99. Okay. So first of all, you need the $99 guy. You need the $99 guy. You need the $197 guy. You need the $299 guy. You need the $499 guy. You need the $999 guy, right? Because all of them have their place in the marketplace, and you can't worry about them at all. In fact, I know some guys that are absolute top of the market, and you're like, man, that's just insane pricing. And yet I learned it. I've shared this dozens of times. I learned it I was a home and building inspector years ago. I was ASHI certified. It became the ASHI chapter president, all that kind of stuff. And we used to make fun of one of the guys who was, an ASHI member, and his prices were twice what the rest of us charged, if not more. And we'd always make fun of it. And then at one of the meetings, and sometimes at the meetings, we'd kind of, pick on him for it. And at one of the meetings, we said something to him, and he's like, you guys just totally don't get it. Yes, I charge more than you do, by double the amount, if not more. And I work half as much as you do, but I make more than you do. And that sunk into my brain very hard at that moment when I look
Yeah.
at him and I'm like, dang, he's right. He's working less than I am and he's making more than I am.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Who's wrong here?
Well, I mean, it comes down to that value, that perceived value in what we do, right? Like some guys, maybe they're not good sellers. They feel like $99 is all they can get. I truly believe that self-limiting beliefs are a huge part of us as entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
Right? We go into our daily routines and we're like, I'm not good enough. We have these thoughts in our head that, the crazy thing I'm going to share with you, right? This is my own personal life. I used to tell people all the time that I'm just dumb, man. I'm retarded, like, don't mind me. I have ADHD, right? I went and got tested back in October. I said, Mr. Yensan, you don't have ADHD. I said, what? Yeah. It's like a weight lifted off. I'm like, what's wrong with me then? Right. And they're like, and you're not dumb. Like, you scored pretty high on your competency tests. Like, you're up there. And I'm like, I believed that my abilities and my thought process were all wrong. And it's truly not the case, right? So we put things in our way all the time, these brick walls that we create for ourselves, and we do it to ourselves, right? So when guys sit there and say they have competition or your competition in my area, I just look at it as an insecure way of them kind of projecting out on those things that fear them the most, right? Because at the end of the day, you're going to stop yourself. You're the one who's not going to go put out those signs anymore. You're the one who's not going to go talk and knock on that door when you know you need to pack that schedule, right? That's a self-discipline you don't have.
And we see it all the time. And I get those phone calls sometimes where you're like, the question be like, man, what am I doing wrong? I'm this, I'm that. I mean, I'm spending all this time on YouTube and Facebook reading and trying to figure this stuff out, man, and I just can't get it wrong or get it right. And I'm like, you just answered your own question, kind of. I mean, you're spending all this time on the internet, trying to figure what are you doing outside the internet, right? What are you doing to actually make something happen within your company, within your own growth, within your, and training systems are a big part of it. Having a way to onboard. And here's another thing about training systems, the way I feel about it, right? When somebody comes into your company and it is, okay, look, go jump in that truck and go with Dave, and he's going to teach you what you need to know. And then Dave goes out there, and depending on how Dave is, Dave might be one of them guys that's like, dude, just stay out of my way. Okay. I got this covered. All I need to do is whatever I tell you to do. Okay, go pick up that hose. Okay. Well, he doesn't even know what the hose does or what it is. I mean, so having a training system in place ahead of time, it's more of it's a setup for success, not just for the guy that's coming in, but for the guys that he's working around, because we have all these different personalities that we have to work around, that we have to deal with. And having a process of training in place just helps with all of that so that everybody's on the same page. Like, as an example, one of the things that I instituted in my company was, we have the white rags that we use for cleaning stuff. Okay. If you see a rag laying on the ground, you pick it up. If it's a bundled rag, it's just fell out of somebody's pocket, right? But if it's laid out in a perfect square, that means that's an ankle breaker laying in the middle of the ground. Okay. So if a tree rots out and it leaves a hole in the yard and you go walking over it, your foot falls in it, it trips you up, it breaks your ankle. So you put the white rag over it as a nice square. Everybody knows that's an ankle breaker. It's not just a rag sitting there. It's not a rag that fell out of somebody's pocket that's in there in a roll. And if they feel like that's what it is, they make sure, So that's one of those things. Those different things that you implement within your company can end up saving you a great deal if you just do it.
So I absolutely love that. That needs to go in the ideas blocks up at the top, right in that piece, because that's like, I never thought of that. Like, how do you, well, it's just a hole, like they better watch out, but that's a phenomenal way to put something in place. I mean, ideas like that, probably everybody in this group. Matter of fact, if you're in here now, if you have some type of unique structure of things that you do that might help somebody, because we're all about helping, right? Put it down below in the comments. Put those things that you specifically do in your company that are unique to you, that may not be unique to other people, because we know the same processes and things that we do, but stuff like Doug was just talking about, I never thought we're going to put that into play. Like, it's going to happen.
You know why I wasn't 100% sure if it was Brandon Vaughn or not. Think about that. You can answer this. You know the answer.
I can't.
What do we always say to you?
What's that?
Who do you look like?
Oh, geez. You're going to start this now. No, I don't look like Brandon. There's no way.
Dave, that he looks like Brandon.
Brandon, he's always saying I look like little Brandon.
Yeah, there you go. So it could have been Brandon because Brandon's actually there, right? That's
yeah. I hear you.
So a younger, better looking version. How's that? Actually, I don't even. Yeah, Brandon's older than you are. I don't know how old you are though.
I'm 34. Yeah. I don't know how old Brandon actually is.
I think he's older than that.
I've never asked him that question.
Well, he is a millennial. I mean,
Guess we can't all be old guys playing poker all day, can we?
There you go.
So
actually, not to bring Brandon into it, but that was one of the things Brandon said to me years ago that was actually a big eye opener for me. Was that for him, and he said, I'm a millennial, and therefore I understand him a little bit better. But one of the things that helped me to understand kind of the millennial mindset would be that for him, he was saying, like working not all year, everybody gets that break, that time off. If you look at most resumes of millennials, right, you're going to see that they work 6 months here, they work 8 months there, they worked a year here, a year there, 5 months here, and they'll tell, man, I've worked all these different jobs. I'm 14 years old and I've had 30 different jobs. Okay, great. That's not impressive. You don't realize that, but
it is these days, apparently.
Yeah. So by having that time off, then they could come back to the company. It was almost like starting a new company, a new thing. And, it helped to get to that understanding of, well, maybe, so that's kind of why I had taken in and did, we took so much time off for Christmas. I would give 2 weeks off, paid time off. And to me, it was kind of like a little bit of a reset. Everybody got, they still got paid and all that, but they got a complete time off and able to come back and kind of reset a little bit.
Yeah. And speaking on Brandon, I'm going to be dead honest with you. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for guys like him, right? That Conquer program. It's that higher level thinking that challenged me to get to where I'm still in Conquer now. I'm one of the originals from Conquer. And I truly love it. It just gives me a different palette. There's different people in that group, right? It's not all just pressure washing. There's some carpet cleaners, there's maid services that are doing, there's somebody in my group right now that does, almost $2 million in maid service. Like there's a whole gap between us and what they're thinking about to what I'm trying to implement. And I find it to be, I'm putting myself as the dumbest person in the room, right? Like I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to be able to create that cult like JC talks about. JC's absolutely killed it this year. The culture that he's created within his team, you can't get that, right? Guys like Patrick Clark, the things that you can learn from those people when it comes to mentorship and stuff like that. So I definitely want to give a shout out to, those guys there, especially Pat. Love the guy to death. I know you see me at the huge in the gutter butter shirt, right?
Yep.
And the reason being, right? Like why would you go there repping somebody else's brand? And when it comes down to it, I love being able to get involved with stuff like that, right? With Pat. If Pat tells me, hey, Dave, I need you here, I'm going to do it, right? Because what did he do on my deployment when I went away? And Sammy didn't know a thing, right? We didn't have those systems in place to do certain things. He stepped in, right? He trained Sammy on how to do the thing and let her, allowed her to run her company. What happened when I went away for another military exercise where I couldn't be there and things went to crap? Sheila, Pat's wife, came up and actually helped change belts out on my machines, right? Drove 4.5 hours to help change belts because I had never put those things in place, right? I can't give those two enough credit that whatever they need, whenever they need it, I'm going to be there. So having those people in this industry and things like that you can rely on, it's a big deal.
It definitely is. I mean, and that's the thing about, and understanding they may not be in your market, that kind of a thing, but it's the same thing with people that are in your market. That's another reason that we say you don't treat them as competitors. You kind of treat them as business partners in a way. And you do help each other and you do work with each other. Now, not everybody. There's some of them that you simply can't. I personally, look, I know there were some things about people swearing. You said ass or something like that tonight on the show. I mean,
I know.
For me, as long as it's not, I don't want somebody going out and dropping the F-bomb, in front of my customers. I don't want that. I don't want them going up and smoking in my customer's face. I don't want those kinds of things, So, as long as you have an understanding with whoever that is, that's helped, and you guys work together and you work well together, that's all that matters. And then you can have somebody that can come out and help change belts and, do all these things. I can't tell you, I even had in my area where, okay, there's one guy that I didn't help out. And the reason I didn't help him was not because he was a washer that became a washer after we washed his property. And he was like, hey, that's pretty easy. And I could do that. I didn't mind that. Right. We've had several of those, but the fact for me was that he had complained about us getting sauce on. I went over and I hand washed his car for him. I did a great job. And then he still had his car taken to someplace, wanted to charge me $150, which I paid. But then later on, when he got into it, he bought a system from somebody's systems, and they didn't teach him how to operate it, or they did, and he didn't listen. And, then he came to me and was like, hey, man, I need you to show me how to operate my system. No, I'm not. There's some people you just don't help because they're not willing to help themselves and they're not willing to help others. And they're there just to take. I'll ask you this, and we've been on for an hour and 11 minutes now. But can you generally tell when somebody is just there to take and not give at all?
Yeah. So when you're going through that interview process, I call it shining the turd. Okay. Mm-hmm. Because the minute somebody comes up to you, they're trying to sell themselves to you and you're trying to sell yourself to them. If you take that interview as a point to be like, hey, let's be real with each other, right? Because at the end of the day, I know you want to sell me and I want to sell you on this being the greatest job. We all do it. We sell, you're going to get benefits and you're going to be this person that's awesome on our team and da-da-da. You're going to cast this vision and you don't even realize that you didn't get all the points that you really need to get from that person, right? Like, are they a good fit for your company, right? So you got to find those questions that allow you to get true answers out of those people. So when we get into that process, if we get 100 applications and we're going through all of our people, and we pick out our few that are doing our virtual interviews, and then they come in for an interview. We tend to figure that stuff out. And Sammy actually created a new hiring process. So we'll bring them in a batch of 20 people. Okay. And then those 20 people are all going to show up in the office. They're going to get a name tape on their chest. Right. And this is the most unorthodox way of doing it. And I was like, Sammy, you're absolutely crazy for this. Like, I don't know if this is going to work. And it absolutely did. It did work. Right. So you put them in a room, right. And you have them fill out some information on who they are, what they believe, just simple things, right? Because you have all their other stuff, get their culture mindset put on paper, essentially. And then we took them outside and we had them flip tires, roll hose, climb up to the top of a ladder and down, and didn't tell them nothing, right? So now you're like, why am I even here? Like, this guy's got me out here flipping a tire. He's got me rolling hose, and like, to watch, right? As the person that's putting all this on, right? Now you see your key indication. I've asked you, I did your first ask. I asked you to roll a hose and you're telling me, man, I don't see the point in this, right? Does that guy fit your culture?
No.
Does he care, right? Is he the guy that'll do anything that you ask him to do? If you can't do the first thing I ask you, how can I expect you to do the rest, right? Mm-hmm. So these simple tasks, like climbing up the ladder. Hey, man, hey, Dave, I'm I'm in the fire department, man. I climb ladders all day. I'm perfect, right? They get up to the top and you put your hand on that side of that rung and you feel that thing start to shake. Right there, you got a guy that can't climb damn ladders, right? So simple things like that you're taking from the interview stance and taking them out of the norm for them. Now you got somebody who's completely out of character. They can't create the character they want.
But one of the buts I'll throw in there, if you've got a guy that gets up to the top of the ladder and that ladder is shaking and he's nervous, that's not a reason to get rid of the guy. It's not a reason to cut him out. I can tell you my best guy ever, also my brother-in-law, I don't know if he ever watches these, but I didn't want to hire him at first. It was just one of them things. But I knew one thing. I knew
Thanksgiving's going to be rough for you now.
I knew he was a good man, and I knew he worked hard, right? So those were what I took into account. And his first couple times, and he'd be leaning way over the ladder and doing all these things. But he ended up becoming one of the best, he became the best technician I ever had. And so sometimes the guy going up the ladder and being nervous and all that is a good thing, number one. But number two, it also is he's got the moxie to go up and do it. Now you have to train him on the right way to do it and how to keep himself safe. But he's got the moxie to listen and to do it. Those are the important factors.
So at the end of the day, I want you to tell me that you're afraid of going up on the ladder, or I don't feel comfortable, Dave, right? So when I start feeling that ladder shake, I know. At least you told me the truth, right? Mm-hmm. Now we can work off this. We can build off this. But if you go, no, I'm perfect. I know you're full of crap and you got to the top of the rung and you're shaking, you're probably not necessarily the best fit, or maybe that's not the best position inside the company for you, right? There's other places that we don't necessarily need somebody climbing a ladder.
Actually, that's the point that I missed that you did say, and that is you said that he said, yeah, I'm a firefighter and I can do this all day long. And then he went up and the ladder was shaky. That I actually I'd have a problem with that because now you've lied to me.
You lied.
And that is a whole different ball of wax. If you're not telling me that you're a firefighter and that you got no problem with this, and then you go up there and that's something different. If you're telling me that, once you start the lying game, it's all over your office.
It's a downhill battle from there, and you're just going to fight it for the rest of the time. Yeah, and as owners, we get in these desperate phases. Like, I don't know when your busy season starts, but you better start hiring way before that, right? Mm-hmm. And we always question ourselves. We're like, man, winter money. I don't know if I really got everything. You get this little spurt of like a January, February money. Utilize it. Put somebody in place. Start training them. Get them ready so that you're able to implement them when needed, not 3 weeks after the fact you needed them on an apartment complex that, had 28 buildings and you needed the extra hand.
Very good. Very good. Well, Dave, we're about an hour and 15 into it. It's generally a good time to go unless you got more.
Quits.
Unless you got what? So give me your final parting thoughts. And then also, look, let me back up. The very last thing that's listed there is, again, the link to the Google Drive document that you can download, you can edit, you can do whatever. You can reach out to Dave. He'll help you as much as he can. Yep. And, all that kind of stuff. As always, we always say be respectful of time. But give me your parting thoughts. And then once we kick off, just stick on for a minute. But give me your parting thoughts, Dave.
So it's really sexy to look at all the information that was just thrown your way, but it's absolutely useless if you don't implement. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to leave that piece right there. And there's nothing else to say in that matter, because if you don't implement, it doesn't happen. You're stuck in the same rut as you were
right
last
back
year.
Where you started. And it's very good.
So
awesome. We really appreciate you coming on, Dave. And hey, peace out, y'all. Thank y'all for listening to us, and we'll see you next week.
Take it later.